Tonight we're drifting through corners of the Pokémon world that rarely see the light, where forgotten creatures wait in the shadows of development files and hidden details rest beneath familiar games. You'll hear about origins that shape beloved creatures and secrets tucked into code that players stumbled upon by accident. Some of these stories reveal designs that never made it past the early sketches, while others show mechanics that were tested, changed, or quietly abandoned. There are lost regions, altered characters, and strange quirks that shaped the games without players ever noticing. Each discovery reminds us how much of this world is built on choices we never saw. Every detail adds another quiet layer to a world already rich with mystery. And before we drift any further, make sure to subscribe so once we reach 1,000 subscribers, I can reduce the ads. And tell me where you're watching from tonight. The Pokemon world began as a simple idea from Satoshi Tajiri, who spent his childhood catching insects and tadpoles in the rural fields of Japan. He envisioned a game where players could collect, trade, and battle unique creatures, something that felt personal and alive. The Game Boy's link cable gave him the idea that Pokemon could be exchanged between players, a concept that was revolutionary at the time. This connectivity became a core pillar of the series, encouraging social interaction and shared exploration in ways that few games had attempted before. In the earliest games, Pokemon designs had to work within severe hardware restrictions that shaped their final appearance. Each sprite had to fit into tiny memory allocations, which meant shapes were simplified and details often exaggerated to make them recognizable. Pikachu's original chubby form wasn't just an artistic choice, but a practical necessity. Its round body fit better in the limited pixel grid available on the Game Boy hardware. As technology advanced through later generations, the design slimmed down to better reflect its speed and agility in the anime and later games. Pikachu's iconic voice, provided by Ikue Otani, has been consistent across hundreds of recorded squeaks and cries reused across media. This consistency created a recognizable character that transcended language barriers, making Pikachu a global icon even for those who never played the games. Mew, the mysterious psychic type, was secretly added to Pokemon Red and Green's game code by programmer Shigeki Morimoto after development had essentially wrapped. He used leftover memory space to slip it in, intending it as a fun Easter egg for developers. This unexpected addition became the centerpiece of playground rumors that spread across schoolyards worldwide. Stories circulated about completing obscure button combinations or battling through impossible conditions to find Mew hidden somewhere in the game world. Most of these myths were false, invented by children who wanted to believe in something magical beyond the visible edges of the game. But they added a layer of mystery that made the game feel alive beyond its code, as if secrets were waiting just out of reach. Another iconic quirk of the first generation was the infamous missing no glitch, a strange blocky Pokemon that wasn't supposed to exist at all. By triggering specific conditions along the coast of Cinnabar Island, players could encounter this bizarre entity. Catching it often duplicated the sixth item in the player's inventory, a discovery that quickly spread as a way to obtain infinite Master Balls or rare candies. While it could corrupt the Hall of Fame data and cause visual oddities, missing no never truly broke the game in a way that made it unplayable. It became a beloved piece of Pokemon history, a glitch that players actively sought out rather than avoided. The existence of missing no revealed how fragile early game code could be and how willing players were to push boundaries to discover what lay beneath the surface. In the Johto region, introduced in Pokemon Gold and Silver, the world expanded dramatically with new mechanics and mysteries. Players could explore two regions, encounter shiny Pokemon, and breed their own Pokemon for the first time. The shiny mechanic was born almost by accident, as developers wanted a way to indicate special Pokemon beyond just stats. With a 1 in 8,192 chance of appearing, shinies became prized trophies for dedicated trainers. Some shinies had starkly different color palettes that made them instantly recognizable, like the jet black Charizard that replaced the usual orange flames with blue ones. Others, such as Garchomp, looked so similar to the original that only the sparkle animation gave them away. This inconsistency made shiny hunting unpredictable, as trainers never knew whether their rare find would be visually stunning or barely noticeable. The ruins of Alph, hidden in Johto, introduced the unknown Pokemon, shaped like ancient letters and punctuation marks from various alphabets. Collecting them all revealed cryptic messages that hinted at a deeper lore, subtly connecting to Arceus years before the Pokemon was officially revealed. These ruins added a sense of archaeological mystery, making the world feel older and richer, as if civilizations had existed long before trainers walked these paths. In the early days, Pokemon movesets were often unbalanced in ways that shaped competitive play for years to come. Psychic types, for example, dominated competitive play because their only real counter, the bug type, had very few strong moves available. It wasn't until later generations that types like Dark and Steel were added to help balance matchups and create more strategic depth. Steel was introduced partly because the developers wanted a type that symbolized resilience and defense, which is why many Steel types like Steelix and Scizor have high durability. The addition of these types changed the metagame completely, forcing players to rethink strategies that had worked since Generation 1. It was a reminder that the Pokemon world was still evolving, still discovering what it wanted to be. One of the most culturally significant Pokemon is Magikarp, designed as a nod to the Japanese legend of the koi fish leaping over the Dragon Gate to become a dragon. In-game, this transformation is reflected in its evolution into Gyarados, a powerful, fearsome Pokemon whose violent nature starkly contrasts with Magikarp's weakness. Gyarados was originally designed as a water and dragon type, but the dragon typing was removed to avoid making it too powerful early in the game. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we find that many Pokemon designs are rooted in folklore and mythology from cultures around the world. Ninetales draws from the Japanese Kitsune legends, where foxes gain tails and supernatural powers as they age. Ho-Oh is based on the Chinese phoenix, a symbol of rebirth and immortality that appears in times of peace and prosperity. Lugia, despite being a psychic and flying type, is heavily associated with the ocean and draws inspiration from both dragons and sea deities. Its design suggests something ancient and powerful, a guardian of the depths that surfaces only when the world is in danger. These mythological connections give certain Pokemon a weight and presence that goes beyond their stats or move pools. In Generation 3, the Hoenn region introduced weather-based battles and abilities that changed how trainers approached combat entirely. Rain Dance and Sunny Day became essential moves, and Pokemon like Kyogre and Groudon were designed to embody these weather extremes. Kyogre is described as having expanded the seas themselves, capable of creating massive storms and tsunamis that reshape continents. Groudon, its counterpart, raised land masses from the ocean floor and caused droughts that lasted for generations. These legendary Pokemon weren't just powerful in battle, they were forces of nature, gods in their own right, that shaped the world around them. Their clash became the centerpiece of the game's lore, a battle between land and sea that threatened to destroy everything. Rayquaza was introduced as the mediator between these two titans, a dragon that lived in the ozone layer and descended only when the world was on the brink of destruction. Its design and backstory elevated it above typical legendary Pokémon, positioning it as a cosmic force that maintained balance. The Hoenn region's mythology was the first time Pokemon lore felt truly epic, with stakes that extended beyond a single trainer's journey. The introduction of abilities in Generation 3 added another layer of strategy to battles, giving each Pokemon unique traits that could turn the tide of a match. Abilities like Levitate made certain Pokemon immune to ground-type moves, while Intimidate lowered the opponent's attack stat upon entering battle. These passive effects required trainers to think more carefully about team composition and move sets. Some abilities were so powerful that they defined entire strategies, such as Drizzle and Drought, which had automatically changed the weather when the Pokemon had entered battle. Weather teams became a dominant force in competitive play, with trainers building entire rosters around a single weather condition. This shift made battles more dynamic and unpredictable, as the environment itself became a factor in every decision. The Sinnoh region, introduced in Generation 4, brought a darker and more mature tone to the series. Team Galactic's leader, Cyrus, wasn't interested in world domination or profit. He wanted to erase the universe and create a new one without emotion or spirit. This existential threat felt heavier than previous villains, as Cyrus genuinely believed he was doing the right thing by eliminating human suffering through oblivion. Giratina, the renegade Pokémon, was banished to the Distortion World for its violence and watches silently from an alternate dimension. Its design is unsettling, with a serpentine body covered in spikes and an aura of menace that fits its role as an outcast god. The Distortion World itself is a surreal, gravity-defying space where the laws of physics don't apply, adding a layer of cosmic horror to the game. Dialga and Palkia, the other two members of the Creation Trio, represent time and space respectively, giving them control over the fundamental building blocks of reality. Catching these Pokemon feels less like capturing a wild creature and more like imprisoning a deity. The weight of that responsibility is rarely addressed in the games, but it lingers in the background, a quiet reminder that trainers wield power they might not fully understand. The Unova region, introduced in Generation 5, took a bold step by featuring an entirely new Pokédex with no returning Pokémon until after the main story. This decision was controversial, as it forced players to engage with unfamiliar designs and left many nostalgic fans feeling alienated. But it also allowed the developers to experiment with new ideas without relying on past successes. Reshiram and Zekrom, the legendary dragons of Unova, represent truth and ideals respectively, themes that run through the entire narrative. N, the enigmatic antagonist, challenges the player's relationship with Pokémon, questioning whether it's right to keep creatures in Pokeballs and force them to battle. This moral ambiguity made the story feel more mature, as there were no easy answers to the questions it raised. The Dream World feature introduced in Generation 5 allowed players to catch Pokémon with hidden abilities that couldn't be obtained through normal gameplay. This added another layer of complexity to team building, as certain Pokémon became far more viable with their hidden abilities. Politoed, for example, gained the Drizzle ability, turning it into a cornerstone of rain teams overnight. The Kalos region in Generation 6 introduced the Fairy type, a decision that fundamentally changed competitive battling by providing a hard counter to Dragon types. Dragons had dominated the metagame for years, with powerful Pokémon like Garchomp and Salamence shaping every team composition. The addition of Fairy-type Pokémon like Sylveon and Azumarill forced trainers to rethink their strategies and created a more balanced competitive environment. Mega Evolution was also introduced in Kalos, allowing certain Pokémon to temporarily evolve during battle into more powerful forms. This mechanic was polarizing, as it gave already strong Pokémon like Mewtwo and Rayquaza even more power, while less popular Pokémon were overlooked. Mega Charizard X became a Dragon type, finally granting fans the Dragon Charizard they had wanted since Generation 1. The concept of Mega Evolution raised questions about what evolution truly means in the Pokémon world. If a Pokémon can evolve temporarily during battle, is it truly evolving, or is it just tapping into latent power? Some Mega Evolution Pokédex entries are disturbingly dark, describing the immense pain and suffering the Pokémon endures during the transformation. Mega Kangaskhan's entry mentions that its baby grows rapidly during battle, while Mega Aerodactyl is said to go berserk from the stress of the transformation. The Alola region introduced regional variants, alternate forms of existing Pokémon that adapted to a new environment over generations. Alolan Vulpix became an ice type to survive in snowy mountains, while Alolan Exeggutor grew absurdly tall to reach sunlight in the tropical climate. These regional variants showed that Pokémon could continue evolving and adapting even after being documented by scientists. Z-moves replaced Mega Evolution as the central battle gimmick in Alola, giving every Pokémon access to a powerful once-per-battle move. This democratized the power boost that Mega Evolution provided, allowing trainers to use their favorite Pokémon without worrying about whether they had a Mega form. The animations for Z-moves were elaborate and over-the-top, turning battles into spectacles that felt more like anime episodes than turn-based combat. Alola also introduced Ultra Beasts, extra-dimensional creatures that weren't technically Pokémon, but could be caught and battled like them. These beings had bizarre designs that didn't follow the usual Pokémon aesthetic, with sharp angles, unsettling proportions, and an otherworldly presence. Nihiligo, for example, resembles a jellyfish made of glass that can parasitize living creatures and control their minds. The Galar region in Generation 8 introduced Dynamaxing, a mechanic that allowed any Pokémon to grow to enormous size for 3 turns during battle. This replaced Mega Evolution and Z-moves, continuing the trend of each generation introducing a new battle gimmick. Dynamax Pokémon could also use max moves, powerful attacks that had additional effects beyond just damage. Gigantamax forms took Dynamaxing a step further, giving certain Pokémon unique appearances and exclusive G-Max moves when Dynamaxed. Gigantamax Charizard gained a fiery aura and wings that resembled flames, while Gigantamax Pikachu reverted to its chubby original design. These forms felt like a love letter to longtime fans, celebrating the history of the series while pushing it forward. The wild area introduced in Galar was the first truly open environment in a mainline Pokémon game, allowing players to freely explore and encounter Pokémon roaming in real time. Weather changed dynamically, affecting which Pokémon appeared and creating a sense of living, breathing ecosystem. This shift toward open-world design hinted at what would come in future generations. The Crown Tundra expansion brought back legendary Pokémon from previous generations, allowing players to encounter them in Dynamax adventures. These cooperative raid battles required strategy and teamwork, as trainers couldn't use their own Pokémon and had to rely on rental Pokémon provided at the start. The randomness of these encounters made each adventure feel unique and unpredictable. Calyrex, the High King Pokémon, was revealed to have once ruled over Galar in ancient times before being forgotten by history. Its regal design and sad backstory added depth to the region's lore, suggesting that even gods can fade from memory if people stop believing in them. Calyrex could fuse with either Glastrier or Spectrier, creating 2 distinct forms that emphasized different battle styles. The Hisui region, explored in Pokemon Legends, Arceus, took players back in time to an era before Pokeballs were standardized and trainers were common. The game's open world design and emphasis on exploration felt like a return to the series' roots, where discovery mattered more than battling. Pokemon roamed freely and could attack the player directly, adding a sense of danger that had been absent from previous games. Hisuian forms introduced new regional variants that reflected how Pokemon lived in this ancient time period before human civilization reshaped their environments. Hisuian Zorua and Zoroark became normal and ghost types, their fur white as snow and their demeanor far more aggressive than their Unovan counterparts. The lore explained that these Pokemon died in harsh conditions and returned as vengeful spirits, a tragic origin that fit the darker tone of the game. Alpha Pokemon, larger and more aggressive versions of regular Pokemon, posed a significant threat to unprepared trainers exploring the wilds of Hisui. These Pokemon had glowing red eyes and attacked on sight, forcing players to either battle them or flee. The introduction of Alpha Pokemon added a layer of danger to exploration that made the world feel more hostile and untamed. The Paldea region in Generation 9 introduced an open world design that gave players complete freedom to explore three separate storylines in any order they chose. Victory Road, Path of Legends, and Starfall Street could all be tackled simultaneously, allowing for a non-linear experience that respected player agency. This design philosophy represented the major shift for the series, acknowledging that players wanted more control over their journey. Terastallization replaced Dynamaxing as the central battle mechanic, allowing Pokemon to change their type temporarily during battle. This added an element of unpredictability to competitive battles, as opponents could never be certain of a Pokemon's true type until it terastallized. A Garchomp could become a water type to counter its ice weakness, or a Dragonite could become a steel type to resist dragon attacks. Paradox Pokemon introduced in Scarlet and Violet represented either ancient ancestors or futuristic descendants of existing Pokemon, depending on which version of the game was played. These creatures had wildly different designs that pushed the boundaries of what a Pokemon could look like. Great Tusk resembled a prehistoric Donphan covered in fur, while Iron Valiant looked like a sleek robotic fusion of Gardevoir and Galad. The mystery surrounding Paradox Pokemon added depth to the game's lore, as their origins were never fully explained. Were they truly brought from the past or future through time travel, or were they simply Pokemon that evolved to resemble ancient or futuristic forms? The game left this question unanswered, allowing players to form their own theories and interpretations. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we find that Pokemon have always had a darker side hidden beneath their colorful exteriors. Pokédex entries often describe unsettling behaviors or tragic origins that contrast sharply with the cheerful tone of the games. These details add depth to the world, reminding players that not everything in the Pokemon universe is innocent or safe. Drifloon, for example, is described as a Pokemon that grabs onto children and drags them away to the afterlife. Its design is innocent enough, resembling a simple balloon, but the implications of its Pokédex entry are chilling. Parents in the Pokemon world presumably warn their children to stay away from Drifloon, treating it as a genuine threat rather than a cute companion. Banette is said to be a discarded plush toy that came to life filled with hatred for the child who abandoned it. It searches endlessly for its former owner, driven by a need for revenge that can never be satisfied. The idea of a toy gaining sentience and seeking vengeance is the stuff of horror stories, yet it exists within the Pokémon world as a documented species. Phantump is described as the spirit of a child who died while lost in the forest, now possessing a tree stump to continue existing. These lonely spirits call out to travelers, leading them deeper into the woods where they might meet the same fate. While its design is cute, the backstory is pure folklore tragedy, drawing from tales of ghost lights and wandering souls that haunt wooded areas. Yamask carries a mask that represents the face it had when it was human, and it sometimes weeps when looking at it. This suggests that Yamask retains full memories of its previous life, trapped in a new form without any hope of returning to what it once was. Its evolution, Cofagrigus, compounds the horror by luring in and trapping grave robbers inside its sarcophagus-like shell, turning them into mummies. Beware became infamous in Alola for its deceptively cuddly appearance that hides an unintentionally lethal nature. According to the Pokédex, it has a habit of giving tight hugs to those it likes, tight enough to shatter bones without realizing it. Locals are warned to keep their distance from Beware, making it one of the most unintentionally dangerous Pokémon in the series. Gengar has long been portrayed as mischievous, but some entries frame it in a more sinister light. It's said that Gengar emerges from shadows to stalk humans, occasionally imitating their movements before striking. In one entry, Gengar's body temperature is described as dropping suddenly when it appears, suggesting it drains heat from its surroundings like a ghostly predator hiding in plain sight. Dusknoir is described as an antenna that receives transmissions from the spirit world, guiding lost souls to their final destination. Its design resembles a ghostly executioner, complete with a single eye that glows ominously in the dark. The idea that Dusknoir serves as a psychopomp, ferrying the dead to the afterlife, gives it a gravitas that few other Pokémon possess. Frostless is said to be the spirit of a woman who perished in the mountains, now freezing men with her icy breath and keeping their bodies as decorations. This is a direct reference to the Japanese Yuki Onna legends, where beautiful snow spirits lure travelers to their deaths in blizzards. Her elegance and beauty mask a predatory nature that makes her one of the more unsettling ghost types. Spirit is formed from 108 evil spirits bound together and sealed inside a stone for their sins. The number 108 is significant in Buddhism, representing the number of earthly desires that cause suffering. Spirit design reflects this, with swirling faces visible in its ghostly body, each one representing a separate, tormented soul trapped in eternal punishment. Gorgist's Pokédex entry describes how it wraps its arms around prey while singing joyfully, a disturbing image that suggests it takes pleasure in the suffering of others. Its different sizes affect its stats, with larger Gorgist being slower but more durable. This connection between size and personality adds another layer to its already unsettling character. Decidueye, the final evolution of Rowlet, is described as a silent assassin that strikes from the shadows with pinpoint accuracy. Its design resembles an archer mixed with an owl, giving it a mysterious and dangerous air. Despite being a starter, Pokémon meant to be friendly and approachable, Decidueye's lore paints it as a solitary hunter that prefers to work alone. Mimikyu is one of the most tragic Pokémon in the entire series, as its true form is so horrifying that anyone who sees it suffers a mysterious affliction. It wears a Pikachu costume because it wants to be loved and accepted like Pikachu, but the disguise only highlights its loneliness. Mimikyu's disguise ability protects it from the first attack it receives, representing how it hides behind a false identity to protect itself from rejection. Cursola is formed from the bleached branches of Corsola after it dies from sudden changes in water temperature, a clear reference to coral bleaching caused by climate change. Its design is haunting, with pale white branches and a ghostly presence that mourns what it once was. The inclusion of Cursola in the games represents one of the few times Pokemon has directly addressed environmental issues through its creature designs. Rune Regus is formed when a Yamask is damaged and absorbs a slab of ancient stone covered in runes. The transformation is painful and permanent, binding the spirit to the stone forever. Its design resembles a sarcophagus that moves like a living creature, with arms made of clay that reach out toward anything nearby, as if searching for help that will never come. Polteagust is a ghost type that possesses an antique teapot, but not all teapots contain real poltergeist. Some are just ordinary pots that look similar. This creates confusion among collectors who risk purchasing expensive forgeries. The concept of a Pokemon that can only inhabit genuine antiques adds a layer of authenticity and history to its lore, making it feel more grounded in reality. Trevenant is described as a tree that gained sentience and now punishes those who harm forests by trapping them in its roots. Its design is imposing, with a single glowing eye and branches that resemble claws. Trevenant serves as a guardian of the woods, protecting its territory with a ferocity that makes it clear it views humans as intruders who must be driven out or eliminated. Dragapult uses its pre-evolution, Dreepy, as ammunition, launching them at high speed toward opponents. The Pokédex claims that Dreepy enjoy being launched and treated as a game, but the image of a dragon using its own children as projectiles is still unsettling. Dragapult's design combines stealth bomber aesthetics with a ghostly appearance, making it one of the more unique dragon types. Sinistea and Polteageist are both fragile Pokemon that rely on evasion and special attacks to survive in battle. Their connection to antique tea sets gives them a Victorian elegance that contrasts with their ghostly nature. Collecting the authentic forms of these Pokemon has become a challenge for completionists, as the differences are subtle and easy to miss. Marshadow is a mythical Pokemon that hides in the shadows of others and mimics their movements, learning their techniques through observation. Its design is small and unassuming, making it easy to overlook, which fits its role as a silent observer. Marshadow's signature move, Spectral Thief, allows it to steal stat boosts from opponents, reflecting its thieving nature. Hoopa, in its unbound form, is described as a being of immense power that was sealed away after causing chaos across multiple dimensions. Its true form resembles a djinn or demon with 6 arms and a menacing grin that suggests it enjoys causing mischief. Hoopa's ability to summon other legendary Pokemon through its rings makes it one of the most dangerous Pokemon in existence, capable of reshaping reality itself. Eternatus is a Pokemon from outer space that crashed into Galar thousands of years ago and absorbed energy from the region's power spots. Its design is alien and unsettling, resembling a skeletal dragon with glowing red accents. Eternatus is capable of Dynamaxing without a trainer's input, growing to an enormous size and threatening to destroy everything around it. The fight against Eternatus in Pokémon Sword and Shield is one of the most climactic moments in the series, as it requires the player to catch it to prevent it from annihilating the entire region. Necrozma is a Pokémon that once radiated light and warmth, but was damaged and now seeks to steal light from other sources to sustain itself. Its different forms represent stages of its attempt to reclaim its lost power, with Ultra Necrozma being its true form restored. The lore surrounding Necrozma is tragic, as it is portrayed as a once benevolent being driven to desperation by its own suffering. Solgaleo and Lunala are legendary Pokemon that represent the sun and moon respectively, with designs that reflect their celestial nature. Solgaleo resembles a lion wreathed in solar flames, while Lunala resembles a bat with wings shaped like a crescent moon. These two Pokemon can fuse with Necrozma to create powerful hybrid forms that combine their abilities, creating some of the strongest Pokemon in competitive battling. Zacian and Zamazenta are the legendary wolves of Galar, each representing a different aspect of combat. Zacian wields a sword in its mouth and embodies offense, while Zamazenta carries a shield on its chest and embodies defense. Their designs are elegant and noble, reflecting their roles as heroes who saved Galar from an ancient crisis. The lore describes them as siblings who fought together to defeat Eternatus, sealing it away before falling into a deep slumber. Calyrex, as mentioned earlier, was once a beloved king who ruled over the Crown Tundra with wisdom and grace. Over time, people forgot about Calyrex, and its power waned until it was little more than a legend. The quest to restore Calyrex's power involves helping it reunite with its steed, either the ice horse Glastrier or the ghost horse Spectrier, depending on the player's choice. This fusion transforms Calyrex into a powerful mounted warrior, reclaiming its throne and reminding the world of its former glory. Regieleki and Regidrago are two new Regi Pokemon introduced in the Crown Tundra, representing electricity and dragon energy respectively. According to legend, Regigigas created these two Pokemon but sealed them away because their power was too great to be left unchecked. Regieleki is said to contain enough electrical energy to power an entire region, while Regidrago is formed from crystallized dragon energy that was incomplete, giving it an unusual appearance. Glastrier is an ice horse that embodies arrogance and pride, believing itself to be superior to all other Pokemon. Its design is imposing, with icy armor covering its body and a cold demeanor that makes it difficult to approach. Trainers who bond with Glastrier must earn its respect through strength, as it will not obey those it deems unworthy. Spectrier is a ghost horse that embodies loneliness and sorrow, having spent centuries isolated in the Crown Tundra. Its design is sleek and ethereal, with a mane that flows like mist and hooves that leave no sound as it moves. Spectrier's incredible speed makes it one of the fastest Pokemon in existence, capable of moving so quickly that it appears to vanish and reappear elsewhere. Kubfu and Urshifu represent discipline and martial arts, with their evolution depending on which training tower the player chooses to climb. Single Strike. Urshifu focuses on powerful individual blows, while Rapid Strike, Urshifu emphasizes precision and consecutive attacks. Both forms are incredibly strong in competitive battling, with unique moves that allow them to bypass defensive abilities. Zarude is a mythical Pokemon that lives deep in forests and protects its territory fiercely, wrapping vines around intruders to drive them away. Despite its aggressive nature, Zarude is capable of compassion, as shown in the movie where it raises a human child after finding them abandoned. This duality makes Zarude one of the more complex mythical Pokemon, embodying both the nurturing and protective aspects of nature. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at the development of Pokemon games over the years. The series has always balanced accessibility with depth, creating games that children can enjoy while offering enough complexity to engage older players. This balance has been achieved through careful design choices that hide advanced mechanics beneath simple interfaces, allowing players to engage with the game at their own level. The breeding system introduced in Generation 2 allowed players to pass down moves and abilities that Pokemon couldn't normally learn, creating opportunities for creative strategies. Egg moves became essential for competitive battling, as they allowed Pokemon to access moves that gave them an edge over opponents. The process of breeding the perfect Pokemon became a game within the game, requiring patience and knowledge of genetics. Individual values and effort values, commonly known as IVs and EVs, are hidden stats that determine a Pokemon's true potential. IVs are randomly generated when a Pokemon is encountered or hatched, while EVs are earned by defeating other Pokemon in battle. These hidden mechanics weren't explained in early games, forcing players to discover them through experimentation or community knowledge shared online. Natures, introduced in Generation 3, add another layer of complexity by modifying a Pokemon's stats, increasing one stat by 10% while decreasing another. Competitive players spent hours searching for Pokemon with the right nature, as having the wrong nature could mean the difference between victory and defeat. The introduction of mints in later generations made it easier to change a Pokemon's nature, reducing some of the frustration associated with this mechanic. Abilities, also introduced in Generation 3, gave each Pokemon species unique traits that added strategic depth to battles. Some abilities were simple, like Overgrow boosting grass-type moves when the Pokemon's health was low, while others were complex, like Intimidate lowering the opponent's attack stat when the Pokemon entered battle. The addition of hidden abilities in Generation 5 expanded this system further, giving certain Pokemon access to abilities they couldn't normally have. The held item system allowed Pokemon to carry items that enhanced their abilities or provided strategic advantages during battle. Choice Band increased attack power, but locked the Pokemon into using a single move, while leftovers gradually restored health each turn. These items became essential tools in competitive battling, with entire strategies built around specific item and interactions. Status conditions like burn, paralysis, and poison have been part of Pokemon since the beginning, but their strategic implications have evolved over time. Burn reduces a Pokemon's attack power, making it effective against physical attackers, while paralysis reduces speed and occasionally prevents the Pokemon from moving. Toxic, a move that causes increasing poison damage each turn, became a staple of stall strategies that focused on slowly wearing down opponents. The introduction of double battles in Generation 3 changed how trainers approached combat, as they had to consider interactions between their own Pokemon as well as opponents. Spread moves that hit multiple targets became more valuable, while single target moves needed to be used more strategically. Doubles became the official format for competitive Pokemon, as it required more complex decision-making and teamwork. Rotation battles and triple battles were introduced in Generation 5 as experimental formats that offered even more complexity, but they were eventually phased out due to low popularity. These formats required players to think several turns ahead, predicting not only which moves their opponents would use, but also which Pokemon they would rotate into position. The introduction of Mega Evolution in Generation 6 added a new layer of strategy, as trainers could only Mega Evolve one Pokemon per battle and had to choose the right moment to activate it. Some Pokemon, like Kangaskhan and Mawilo, became far more viable in competitive play thanks to their Mega Evolutions, while others like Garchomp received Mega forms that were arguably worse than their base forms. Z-moves in Generation 7 offered a different approach, allowing any Pokemon to use a powerful once-per-battle move regardless of whether it had a special form. This democratized the power boost, but it also made battles more predictable, as both players knew when the opponent was likely to use their Z-move. The animations were flashy and dramatic, turning battles into cinematic experiences. Dynamaxing in Generation 8 combined elements of both Mega Evolution and Z-moves, allowing any Pokemon to temporarily grow to enormous size and gain access to powerful max moves. The 3-turn limit created interesting strategic decisions, as trainers had to balance offense and defense while their Pokemon was Dynamaxed. Gigantamax forms added unique designs and exclusive moves, giving certain Pokemon an advantage. Terastallization in Generation 9 took a completely different approach by allowing Pokemon to change their type mid-battle, adding an element of unpredictability that previous mechanics lacked. A Pokemon could become any of the 18 types, regardless of its original typing, creating endless strategic possibilities. This mechanic rewarded creative thinking and adaptability, as players could no longer rely on type matchups alone. The competitive Pokemon scene has evolved significantly over the years, with official tournaments and world championships attracting thousands of players. The Video Game Championships, or VGC, became the official competitive format, using doubles battles with restricted legendary Pokemon allowed in certain formats. Top players spent hundreds of hours testing teams and refining strategies, treating competitive Pokemon as seriously as any esport. The Smogon community created an unofficial tier system that organized Pokemon by power level, allowing players to compete with weaker Pokemon that would otherwise be overshadowed by legendary Pokemon. Tiers like Overused, Underused, and Never Used gave every Pokemon a place where it could shine, creating a more balanced competitive environment. This community-driven approach to balance has influenced official game design in subtle ways. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we find that Pokemon designs often reflect real-world animals and phenomena in surprising ways. Stunfisk is based on a stargazer fish, a bottom-dwelling predator that buries itself in sand and ambushes prey. Its flat design and electric/ground typing make it a unique defensive Pokemon that can take advantage of its immunities and resistances. Cryogonal is based on a snowflake, with a perfectly symmetrical design that reflects the crystalline structure of ice. Its inability to evolve and its fragile defenses make it challenging to use in competitive play, but its access to rapid spin and high special defense give it a niche role on certain teams. Delmise is a ghost/grass type Pokemon that resembles a possessed ship anchor covered in seaweed. Its signature ability, Steelworker, boosts the power of steel-type moves even though it's not actually a steel type. This makes Delmise a powerful physical attacker with access to moves like Anchor Shot and Power Whip. Kamala is permanently asleep, with its ability, Comatose, preventing it from being affected by any other status conditions. This makes it immune to paralysis, burn, and sleep-inducing moves, giving it a unique defensive profile. Kamala's design is adorable, resembling a koala clinging to a log, but its permanent sleep state raises questions about its quality of life. Pyukumuku is a water-type Pokemon with extremely low offensive stats, but incredible defensive capabilities, thanks to its ability to use Counter and Mirror Coat effectively. Its signature move, Purify, heals the target's status condition while restoring Pyukumuku's health, making it a supportive Pokemon despite its simple appearance. Pyukumuku's design is based on a sea cucumber, and it can expel its internal organs as a defense mechanism. Toxapex became one of the most dominant defensive Pokemon in competitive play thanks to its incredible typing, ability, and move pool. Regenerator allows it to recover health when switching out, while Scald can burn opponents and cripple physical attackers. Toxapex's design is based on a Crown of Thorns starfish, a venomous predator that destroys coral reefs. Araquanid is a water bug-type Pokemon with the ability Water Bubble, which doubles the power of water-type moves and makes it immune to burn. This makes Araquanid a surprisingly powerful physical attacker, despite its unassuming appearance. Its design is based on a diving bell spider, an arachnid that carries air bubbles underwater to breathe. Golisopod is a bug/water-type Pokémon with high attack and defense stats, but a frustrating ability called Emergency Exit, which forces it to switch out when its health drops below half. This ability makes Golisopod difficult to use effectively, as it can disrupt the player's strategy at critical moments. Its design is based on a giant isopod, a deep-sea crustacean that can grow to enormous sizes. Vikavolt is a bug, electric-type Pokémon with excellent special attack, but painfully low speed, making it difficult to use without Trick Room support. Its design resembles a stag beetle combined with a railgun, reflecting its ability to fire powerful electrical attacks. Despite its late evolution and poor speed, Vikavolt remains popular due to its striking design and unique typing. As another quiet detail appears when we look closer at regional differences in Pokémon games, we find that certain Pokémon or features were changed or removed in different versions due to cultural sensitivities or rating concerns. Jinx's original design featured black skin that resembled blackface, leading to controversy and eventual redesigns that changed its skin to purple. This change was made quietly in later releases of older games, erasing the problematic design from official media. Kadabra has not appeared in the Pokémon trading card game since 2003 due to a lawsuit filed by Uri Geller, who claimed the Pokémon was an unauthorized use of his likeness. While the lawsuit was eventually dropped, Kadabra remained absent from the TCG for nearly 2 decades, only returning recently after Geller gave his blessing. Porygon and its evolutions have not appeared in the anime since the infamous Electric Soldier Porygon episode in 1997, which caused seizures in hundreds of viewers due to rapidly flashing lights. Despite Pikachu being responsible for the flashing effect, Porygon took the blame and has been banned from the anime ever since, making it one of the most tragic casualties of the series. The Game Corner, a casino-like minigame featured in early Pokémon games, was gradually phased out in later generations due to concerns about promoting gambling to children. European versions of Pokémon Platinum removed the slot machines entirely, replacing them with alternative minigames. By Generation 5, the Game Corner had been completely removed, replaced by other facilities that didn't involve gambling. Certain Pokémon have had their Pokédex entries altered or toned down in localized versions to avoid disturbing content. Frozless's entry about freezing men and keeping their bodies was softened in some translations, while other entries describing death or violence were reworded to be less explicit. These changes reflect differing cultural attitudes toward what is appropriate for children's media. The GTS, or Global Trade System, allowed players to trade Pokémon with others around the world, but it was plagued by impossible requests, like asking for level 1 legendary Pokémon that couldn't exist. These troll trades made the GTS frustrating to use, and the feature was eventually replaced by the Wonder Trade System, which allowed for random, anonymous trades. Mystery gift distributions became a primary way for players to obtain event-exclusive Pokémon, with codes distributed through retail stores, online promotions, or live events. These limited-time distributions created a sense of urgency and exclusivity, but they also frustrated players who missed events or couldn't access distribution locations. Some event Pokémon have become incredibly rare and valuable, sought after by collectors willing to pay significant amounts. The Pokémon Bank and Pokémon Home services allowed players to transfer Pokémon between generations, preserving teams and collections across multiple games. However, not all Pokémon could be transferred to newer games due to the Dexit controversy in Pokémon Sword and Shield, where the national Pokedex was cut and only certain Pokemon could be brought into Galar. This decision angered longtime fans who had invested years into building their collections. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet introduced an open world design that gave players unprecedented freedom to explore, but the games were plagued by performance issues and graphical glitches at launch. Frame rate drops, pop-in textures, and bizarre physics errors became memes within the community, highlighting the challenges of developing open-world games on the Nintendo Switch's limited hardware. Despite these technical problems, the games were commercial successes, selling millions of copies worldwide. Tinkaton, introduced in Scarlet and Violet, quickly became a fan favorite due to its adorable design and hilariously violent Pokédex entries. Tinkaton hunts Corviknight specifically to use parts of their bodies for crafting its massive hammer, explaining why Corviknight no longer serve as taxi Pokémon in Paldea. This darkly comedic detail added personality to Tinkaton and made it one of the most memorable new Pokémon. Dondozo and Tatsugiri have a unique interaction where Tatsugiri can hide inside Dondozo's mouth and command it from within, boosting its stats significantly. This symbiotic relationship reflects real-world examples of smaller fish cleaning or guiding larger predators. The mechanic added a new layer of strategy to doubles battles, as players had to account for this unusual partnership. Kingambit evolved from Bisharp when certain conditions were met, requiring the player to defeat 3 other Bisharp that were leading groups of Pawniard. This evolution method was unique and thematic, reflecting Kingambit's role as a leader who earned its position through combat. Its design resembles a samurai general, complete with armor and a commanding presence. Goldengo is the evolved form of Gimmighoul and can only be obtained by collecting 999 Gimmighoul coins, a tedious process that requires extensive exploration. Despite the effort required, Goldengo became a dominant force in competitive battling thanks to its unique ability, Good as Gold, which makes it immune to all status moves. Its design resembles a humanoid figure made of gold coins, reflecting its origins as a treasure-hoarding Pokémon. Baxcalibur is a dragon/ice type pseudo-legendary Pokémon with a design inspired by prehistoric reptiles and medieval weaponry. Its high attack stat and access to powerful moves like Icicle Crash and Glaive Rush made it a popular choice in competitive play. Baxcalibur's pre-evolution, Frigibax, was found in icy caves, requiring players to explore thoroughly to encounter it. Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon are paradox Pokémon that represent futuristic and ancient versions of Gallade, Gardevoir, and Salamence respectively. Their stats and move pools are optimized for competitive battling, making them highly sought after. The mystery surrounding their true origins adds to their appeal, as players debate whether they are genuinely from other timelines or simply Pokémon that evolved to resemble those forms. Walking Wake and Iron Leaves were introduced as event-exclusive Paradox Pokémon during limited-time raids, adding to the growing roster of these mysterious creatures. Walking Wake resembles a prehistoric Suicune with aquatic and reptilian features, while Iron Leaves resembles a futuristic Virizion made of metal and energy. These designs continued the trend of reimagining legendary Pokémon through the Paradox concept. Gouging Fire, Raging Bolt, and Iron Boulder were additional Paradox Pokémon revealed in later updates, each offering new type combinations and abilities. Gouging Fire resembles an ancient Entei with volcanic features, Raging Bolt resembles an ancient Raikou mixed with a dinosaur, and Iron Boulder resembles a futuristic Terrakion. These Pokémon filled gaps in the Paradox roster, giving each legendary beast and Sword of Justice a Paradox counterpart. Iron Crown and Slitherwing were among the most unique Paradox designs, with Iron Crown resembling a futuristic Cobalion with a mechanical crown, and Slitherwing resembling an ancient Volcarona with insectoid and reptilian features. Their unusual appearances challenged traditional Pokemon design conventions, showing that the series was willing to experiment with radical new concepts. The story of Scarlet and Violet's DLC, The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, explored the depths beneath Paldea and introduced new legendary Pokemon tied to the region's mysterious past. Ogerpon, a grass-type legendary Pokemon, had 4 different masks that changed its type and ability, making it one of the most versatile legendary Pokemon ever introduced. Each mask represented a different aspect of Ogerpon's personality and history, adding depth to its lore. The Loyal Three, Okidogi, Munkidori, and Fazandipiti, were introduced as antagonists in the Teal Mask DLC, representing a poison-type Pokemon that gained power through mysterious means. Their designs drew from Japanese folklore, specifically the tale of Momotaro and the 3 animal companions who helped him. The twist that these Pokemon were actually villains subverted player expectations and added moral complexity to the story. Terapagos, a stellar-type legendary Pokemon, was revealed as the source of the terrestrial phenomenon that permeates Paldea. Its ability to change forms and manipulate Terra energy made it central to the region's lore. Terapagos' connection to the ancient past and its role in shaping the environment demonstrated how legendary Pokemon could influence entire regions over millennia. As we've journeyed through these facts, from the earliest legends to the strangest modern discoveries, one truth becomes clear. The Pokemon world is far more complex, mysterious, and alive than it may first appear. Behind every sprite, every cry, and every battle mechanic lies a story, sometimes wondrous, sometimes tragic, sometimes strange enough to blur the line between game and myth. Whether you're drawn to the thrill of the hunt for rare shinies, the depth of the lore connecting regions, or the quiet, eerie mysteries tucked away in Pokédex entries, the world of Pokémon is endless in its ability to surprise and captivate. The Pokémon trading card game has its own rich history, filled with rare cards and fascinating stories that mirror the video games in many ways. The first English set was released in 1999, featuring iconic cards like the base set Charizard that would become some of the most valuable trading cards in existence. Collectors paid thousands of dollars for pristine copies of this card, treating it as an investment rather than a simple piece of cardboard. Shadowless cards from the first print run of the base set are particularly valuable as they lack the shadow effect on the right side of the card's artwork box that later prints included. These early cards were produced in limited quantities before the shadow was added to distinguish Pokémon from other parts of the card. The difference is subtle, but collectors prize shadowless cards for their rarity and historical significance. First edition stamps on cards from early sets add even more value, as they were only printed during the initial production run. A first edition shadowless Charizard in perfect condition can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, making it one of the most expensive trading cards ever produced. The combination of nostalgia, scarcity, and cultural significance has turned certain Pokémon cards into genuine investment vehicles. The Tropical Mega Battle Tournament cards from 1999 are among the rarest Pokémon cards in existence, with only a handful distributed to winners of a Hawaiian tournament. These cards feature unique artwork and are considered holy grails for serious collectors. Similar promotional cards, like the Pikachu Illustrator card, are even rarer, with only a few copies known to exist, each worth astronomical sums. Ancient Mew cards were distributed during the theatrical release of Pokémon, the movie 2000, featuring holographic foil and text written in runic script that references the unknown alphabet from the games. These cards were popular giveaways that introduced many children to the trading card game, though they were never legal for tournament play. Despite their limited competitive value, ancient Mew cards remain cherished collectibles due to their unique design and nostalgic connection to the film. The Pokemon trading card game online allowed players to scan codes from physical booster packs to unlock digital versions of their cards, creating a bridge between physical and digital collecting. This service provided a way for players to test decks and strategies without investing in expensive physical cards. The transition to Pokemon TCG Live modernized the interface and added new features, though some longtime players mourned the loss of certain aspects of the original online client. Competitive play in the trading card game follows different rules and formats than the video games, with decks limited to 60 cards and prizes drawn for knocking out opponent Pokemon. The standard format rotates sets regularly to keep the metagame fresh, while the expanded format allows older cards to remain relevant. Tournament players spend significant time testing decks and predicting meta shifts, approaching the game with the same seriousness as professional video game players. Energy cards represent one of the fundamental differences between the trading card game and the video games, as players must attach energy to their Pokemon each turn to power attacks. Special energy cards with additional effects add strategic depth, allowing for creative deck building that can surprise opponents. The resource management aspect of the TCG creates tension and decision-making absent from the turn-based video game battles. Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX introduced powerful versions of existing Pokemon with higher HP and stronger attacks, but giving up multiple prize cards when knocked out balanced their strength. These mechanics changed how players approached deck building, as decks could revolve entirely around single, powerful GX or EX Pokemon supported by other cards. The risk-reward balance made games more explosive and unpredictable. VMAX and V-Star Pokemon continued this trend in later sets, representing Dynamax and Gigantamax forms from the Sword and Shield games. These cards had massive HP totals and devastating attacks that could end games quickly if left unchecked. The power creep in the trading card game mirrored the video games, with each new mechanic pushing the boundaries of what was possible in a single turn. Tag team cards featured two Pokemon working together, combining their strengths into a single, powerful card with extremely high HP. These cards gave up 3 prize cards when knocked out, making them high-risk investments that could backfire if the opponent could quickly knock them out. Tag team cards featured popular combinations like Pikachu and Zekrom, or Mewtwo and Mew, celebrating the series' most iconic Pokemon through collaborative designs. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we find that the anime has its own separate continuity and lore that sometimes contradicts the games. Ash Ketchum, the protagonist of the anime for over 2 decades, followed a different path than the game protagonists, creating his own unique legacy. His Pikachu refused to evolve despite multiple opportunities, representing the theme that Pokemon don't need to evolve to be strong, a message that resonated with young viewers. The Orange Islands arc introduced regional variants decades before the games implemented them, with Pokemon like Vileplume and Butterfree appearing in different colors. These early examples showed that the anime was willing to experiment with concepts that wouldn't appear in games for many years. The Crystal Onyx episode featured a glass-like onyx that predated the concept of regional forms, though it was treated as a unique individual rather than a subspecies. Ash's Greninja gained a unique form called Ash Greninja that resembled a fusion between trainer and Pokemon, a concept inspired by Mega Evolution but distinct from it. This form was later incorporated into the Sun and Moon games as a special event Pokemon, showing how the anime could influence game mechanics. The bond phenomenon that created Ash Greninja represented the deep connection between trainer and Pokemon taken to its logical extreme. The banned episodes of the Pokemon anime include several that were never aired outside Japan due to controversial content. The aforementioned Electric Soldier Porygon episode caused seizures and was never rebroadcast even in Japan. Other episodes featuring Team Rocket member James wearing inflatable breasts or guns pointed at characters were deemed inappropriate for international audiences and remain unavailable in most regions. The Unova anime arc reset Ash's experience level, making him appear incompetent despite his previous achievements, which frustrated longtime fans. This decision was made to make the series more accessible to new viewers, but it alienated those who had followed Ash's journey from the beginning. The controversial handling of the Unova League, where Ash lost to a trainer using only 5 Pokemon, added insult to injury for many fans. The Kalos arc redeemed Ash in many viewers' eyes, presenting him as a competent trainer with a clear goal and meaningful relationships. His rivalry with Alone culminated in an intense Kalos League final that many fans consider one of the best battles in the series. Despite losing the league, Ash's development throughout Kalos made him feel like a genuine protagonist worthy of respect. The Sun and Moon anime drastically changed the art style and tone, focusing more on slice-of-life school adventures than traditional gym battles and league challenges. This shift divided the fan base, with some appreciating the lighter tone and others missing the more adventure-focused approach of previous series. Ash eventually won the Alola League, his first major tournament victory after 20 years of trying, though the changed format made it feel less significant to some viewers. Pokémon Journeys brought back the classic adventure format while allowing Ash to travel to all regions, culminating in the Masters 8 tournament, where he finally became the world's strongest trainer. His final battle against Leon was the culmination of his entire journey, a symbolic passing of the torch that marked the end of his story as the anime's protagonist. The decision to retire Ash after achieving his dream was controversial but appropriate, allowing new protagonists Liko and Roy to begin their own journey. The Pokémon Horizons series follows these new protagonists in a story centered around the legendary Pokémon Terrapagos and mysterious ancient Pokéballs. This fresh start allows the anime to explore new themes and storylines without the baggage of Ash's decades-long journey. Early reception has been mixed, as longtime fans adjust to a world without Ash, while new viewers embrace the change. Detective Pikachu, the live-action film released in 2019, brought Pokémon into the real world through CGI that blended realistic textures with recognizable designs. Ryan Reynolds voiced the titular Pikachu, a coffee-addicted detective searching for his missing partner. The film's depiction of Rhyme City, where humans and Pokémon coexist without battles, offered a different perspective on the Pokémon world rarely explored in other media. The film featured redesigned Pokémon with realistic fur, scales, and textures that divided fans, with some appreciating the attention to detail, while others felt it veered into uncanny territory. Mr. Mime's appearance as a silent mime, performing behind invisible walls, became a standout moment, equal parts charming and unsettling. Mewtwo's role in the plot tied back to the first Pokémon movie, creating a sense of continuity across different iterations of the franchise. Pokémon spin-off games have explored different genres and gameplay styles, expanding the franchise beyond traditional turn-based battles. Pokémon Snap allowed players to photograph Pokémon in their natural habitats, rewarding patience and observation rather than combat. The game's relaxing pace and emphasis on discovery made it a cult classic, with new Pokémon Snap releasing decades later to similar acclaim. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series placed players in the role of a Pokemon rather than a trainer, exploring randomly generated dungeons with roguelike mechanics. These games featured surprisingly emotional stories, with explorers of time, darkness, and sky often cited as having some of the most impactful narratives in the entire franchise. The partner Pokemon's sacrifice at the end of Explorers remains one of the most memorable moments in Pokemon storytelling. Pokemon Ranger introduced stylus-based gameplay where players drew circles around Pokemon to capture them temporarily for assistance. The series emphasized the harmony between humans and Pokemon, with Rangers protecting nature rather than battling for sport. These games offered a different perspective on the Pokemon world, showing that not all relationships with Pokemon needed to involve ownership or combat. Pokken Tournament combined Pokemon with traditional fighting game mechanics, allowing players to control individual Pokemon in three-dimensional arenas. The game featured a unique dual-phase system that switched between field phase and dual phase, creating dynamic battles that required different strategies. Pokken never achieved mainstream success, but developed a dedicated competitive scene. Pokemon Go revolutionized mobile gaming in 2016 by bringing Pokemon into the real world through augmented reality. Players walked through their neighborhoods to find and catch Pokemon appearing on their phone screens, encouraging physical activity and social interaction. The game's launch was a cultural phenomenon, with millions of players flooding parks and public spaces to catch rare Pokemon and battle at gyms. Community days in Pokemon Go featured specific Pokemon spawning at increased rates with boosted shiny odds, creating monthly events that brought players together. These gatherings transformed the game from a solitary experience into a social one, with players forming local communities and friendships through their shared hobby. Raids required cooperation between multiple players to defeat powerful Pokemon, fostering teamwork and coordination. The weather system in Pokemon Go tied spawns to real-world weather conditions, with water types appearing more frequently during rain and fire types appearing more frequently during sunny weather. This integration of real-world conditions into gameplay made the experience feel more immersive and encouraged players to venture out in different weather conditions. Seasonal events rotated available Pokemon and featured themed content, keeping the game fresh years after launch. Pokemon Sleep gamified rest by tracking players' sleep patterns and rewarding them with Pokemon encounters based on sleep quality. This unusual approach to expanding the franchise into daily life demonstrated the series' willingness to experiment with unconventional concepts. While the game's long-term success remained uncertain, it represented an effort to make Pokemon relevant to aspects of life beyond entertainment. Pokemon Unite brought the franchise into the MOBA genre, with teams of 5 players battling to score points in timed matches. Each Pokemon had unique abilities and evolved during matches, creating a progression system within both individual games. The game's mobile and Switch crossplay allowed for a large player base, though concerns about pay-to-win elements diminished its competitive credibility. Pokemon Masters X focused on sync pairs, combinations of famous trainers and their signature Pokemon from across the series. The game's story brought together characters from different generations, allowing fans to see interactions that would never happen in mainline games. The gacha mechanics and focus on collecting rather than battling created a different kind of Pokemon experience centered around nostalgia. Another quiet detail appears when we look closer at how Pokemon merchandise has expanded beyond games and cards into a global licensing empire worth billions of dollars. Plush toys, clothing, accessories, and household items all feature Pokemon designs, making the franchise omnipresent in daily life. The Pokemon Center stores in Japan and international locations serve as pilgrimage sites for dedicated fans seeking exclusive merchandise unavailable elsewhere. Collaborations with fashion brands have produced high end Pokemon clothing and accessories that appeal to adult fans who grew up with the series. Streetwear brands and designers have created limited edition collections featuring subtle Pokemon references, legitimizing the franchise in fashion circles. These collaborations demonstrate how Pokemon has transcended its origins as children's entertainment to become a cultural touchstone spanning generations. The Pokemon Company carefully controls the brand's image to maintain consistency across different media and products, ensuring that Pikachu always looks recognizable, whether appearing on a trading card, plush toy, or billboard. This brand management has been crucial to Pokemon's longevity, preventing the dilution of iconic designs. The strict licensing guidelines mean that even unofficial fan creations must be careful not to infringe on trademarks. Pokemon's influence extends into unexpected areas like scientific research, with newly discovered species occasionally receiving names inspired by Pokemon. A beetle species was named after Binacle, while a protein involved in cell division was named Pikachurin after Pikachu's electric speed. These examples show how deeply Pokemon has permeated popular culture, influencing even academic naming conventions. The Pokemon World Championships bring together the best players in video games, trading cards, Pokken Tournament, Geo, and Unite for annual competitions with substantial prize pools. These events celebrate competitive Pokemon across all its forms, crowning world champions in each category. The prestige associated with winning worlds motivates players to dedicate thousands of hours to practice and refinement. Speedrunning Pokemon games has become a popular challenge, with players competing to complete games as quickly as possible using various strategies and glitches. The most famous speedrun category is the any percent run of Pokemon Red and Blue, which uses extensive glitches to warp directly to the end credits in under 2 hours. These runs require frame-perfect inputs and deep knowledge of the game's code, turning casual playthroughs into technical showcases. Nuzlocke challenges add difficulty to Pokemon games through self-imposed rules, primarily that Pokemon must be released if they faint, and only the first Pokemon encountered on each route can be caught. These rules transform Pokemon games into tense survival experiences where every battle carries genuine stakes. Nuzlocke runs have inspired comics, streams, and videos documenting emotional journeys through games with permanent consequences. Shiny hunting has evolved from accidental encounters to dedicated strategies involving methods like Masuda method breeding, chaining, and soft resetting for legendary Pokemon. The satisfaction of finally encountering a shiny after thousands of attempts creates an incomparable rush, making shiny hunting addictive despite its tedium. Some players have spent years hunting specific shinies, documenting their journeys through videos that capture both the frustration and eventual triumph. Living Pokédexes, collections containing one of every Pokemon species, including alternate forms, represent the ultimate completionist challenge. Maintaining a living Pokédex requires transferring Pokemon through multiple generations, trading for version exclusives, and occasionally relying on limited time events. The dedication required to build and maintain a complete living Pokédex demonstrates the depth of commitment some fans have to the series. Pokemon ROM hacks and fan games explore ideas that official games never would, creating experiences ranging from increased difficulty to entirely new regions with original Pokemon. Pokemon Uranium, a fan game with a complete original region and over 150 new Pokemon, gained significant attention before being shut down due to copyright concerns. These projects demonstrate the creativity and passion within the Pokemon community, even when legal limitations prevent their official release. Pokemon Reborn and Pokemon Rejuvenation are fan games known for their dark storylines and brutal difficulty, offering mature narratives that contrast sharply with official games' lighter tone. These games don't shy away from themes like death, corruption, and moral ambiguity, creating stories that resonate with adult players seeking more complex narratives. The gameplay is unforgiving, requiring careful planning and team building to progress. Pokemon Insurgents introduced Delta species, Pokemon with completely different types than their normal counterparts, decades after a similar concept appeared in the trading card game. The game's darker tone and challenging battles made it popular among players seeking difficulty. Insurgents also featured armor evolutions and other unique mechanics that expanded on official game concepts. Competitive Pokemon has developed its own terminology and acronyms that might confuse casual players, with terms like EV training, nature manipulation, and IV breeding becoming essential knowledge for serious battlers. Understanding damage calculations, speed tiers, and prediction becomes crucial at high levels of play, transforming battles into complex mental games. The skill ceiling in competitive Pokemon is remarkably high, with top players able to calculate probabilities and predict opponents' moves several turns in advance. Stall teams focused on defensive Pokemon that slowly wear down opponents through passive damage have always been controversial in competitive play. These teams use moves like Toxic, Protect, and Recovery moves to outlast opponents, frustrating players who prefer aggressive offensive strategies. While Stall is a legitimate playstyle, matches involving Stall teams can last over an hour as both players carefully manage resources. Hyper offense teams take the opposite approach, using fast, powerful Pokemon to overwhelm opponents before they can set up defensive strategies. These teams rely on momentum and prediction, making risky plays that can swing matches dramatically. The all-or-nothing nature of hyper offense makes it exciting to watch, but challenging to pilot consistently. Weather Wars dominated several competitive generations, with teams built entirely around maintaining advantageous weather conditions while disrupting opponents' weather. These matches often came down to which player could establish their weather permanently, with entire team compositions designed around specific weather conditions. The introduction of abilities that automatically set weather made these teams even more dominant until Game Freak eventually nerfed weather to last only 5 turns instead of indefinitely. Baton Pass chains were a controversial strategy where Pokemon passed stat boosts to teammates through the move Baton Pass, allowing a recipient to accumulate massive boosts and sweep entire teams. This strategy required precise prediction and could be shut down by moves like Haze or Roar, but when executed successfully, it felt unstoppable. Eventually, Smogon banned Baton Pass entirely in certain tiers due to its centralizing effect on the metagame. Choice items that locked Pokemon into using a single move created interesting risk-reward dynamics, as players had to predict which move would be most valuable. Choice banned boosted attack at the cost of being locked into one move, while Choice Scarf increased his speed with the same restriction. These items punished poor prediction, but rewarded players who could anticipate their opponent's switches. Stealth Rock became one of the most important moves in competitive Pokemon, dealing damage to Pokemon when they switched in based on their rock-type weakness. This entry hazard shaped team building for generations, making Pokemon with 4 times weakness to rock nearly unviable without rapid spin or defog support. The impact of Stealth Rock on competitive play cannot be overstated, as it single-handedly made certain Pokemon unusable, As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we find that certain Pokemon have become mascots of specific strategies or eras in competitive history. Landorus Therian has appeared on countless teams across multiple generations due to its excellent typing, ability, and stat distribution, becoming synonymous with reliable ground type offense. Its ubiquity made it a target for jokes about unoriginal team building, yet its consistent presence proved its effectiveness. Ferrothorn became the defensive counterpart to Landorus Therian's offensive dominance, with its grass and steel typing, providing excellent resistances, and its ability, Iron Barbs, punishing physical attackers. Ferrothorn's low speed was an advantage rather than a disadvantage, allowing it to function in Trick Room teams and making it a reliable late-game wall. The combination of Leech Seed, Protect, and Recovery moves made Ferrothorn incredibly difficult to remove once established. Aegislash's unique stance change ability allowed it to switch between offensive and defensive forms depending on whether it attacked or used King's Shield. This versatility made Aegislash unpredictable and difficult to counter, as opponents never knew which form they would be facing. Eventually, Aegislash was banned to Ubers in Smogon's tier system due to its overwhelming presence and lack of reliable counters. Greninja's Protean ability changed its type to match whatever move it used, giving it stab on every attack and making it extremely difficult to predict. This versatility combined with high speed and special attack made Greninja a dominant force until it was eventually banned from standard play. The introduction of Ash Greninja in Generation 7 added an even more powerful variant that snowballed out of control if it secured a knockout. Mega Kangaskhan's Parental Bond ability hit twice with the second hit, dealing half damage, effectively giving it a 1.5 times boost to all attacks while triggering effects like Seismic Toss twice. This ability was absurdly powerful, making Mega Kangaskhan one of the most dominant Pokemon in VGC formats until Parental Bond was nerfed. The ability to break through Focus Sash and Sturdy in a single attack made Mega Kangaskhan nearly impossible to stop without specific counters. Incineroar became the most used Pokemon in VGC formats for years thanks to its Intimidate ability, which lowered opponents' attack stats when it entered battle. This support capability combined with its access to Fake Out and strong offensive presence made it valuable on almost any team. Incineroar's consistent usage demonstrated how support abilities could be more valuable than raw offensive stats in doubles formats. Trick Room teams that reverse speed priority challenged traditional team-building assumptions by making slow Pokemon move first. Pokemon like Cresselia and Dusclops were valued for their bulk and access to Trick Room, enabling partners like Rhyperior and Torkoal to outspeed everything. These teams required careful planning to manage the 5-turn window when Trick Room was active, making every decision critical. Follow Me and Rage Powder users like Amoonguss and Togekiss protected their partners by redirecting all attacks toward themselves, creating opportunities for setup or free attacks. This support role was essential in doubles formats, where protecting a partner for even a single turn could swing momentum dramatically. The introduction of Helping Hand and other support moves added even more depth to doubles strategy. Tailwind teams that doubled their team's speed for 4 turns offered an alternative to Trick Room, allowing naturally fast Pokemon to outspeed even choice Scarf users. Pokemon like Whimsicott and Tornadus provided Tailwind while also threatening opponents with their own attacks. The speed control battle between Trick Room and Tailwind teams created the interesting matchups where one team needed to stall out the other's field condition. Weather Ball users gained incredible versatility in weather teams, as Weather Ball changed type and doubled in power based on the active weather condition. This made Pokémon like Politoed and Ninetales threatening offensive presences despite their modest base stats. The ability to hit a wide range of types with boosted power made Weather Ball essential on weather teams. The Pokémon franchise's music has become iconic, with certain themes instantly recognizable even to those who haven't played the games in years. The Pokémon Center healing jingle is perhaps the most memorable 7-note sequence in gaming, triggering nostalgia in millions of players worldwide. Each game's soundtrack captures the atmosphere of its region, from Kanto's simple chiptunes to Galar's orchestral battle themes. Lavender Town's theme, from Red and Blue, became infamous for its unsettling tone, spawning creepypasta stories about high-pitched frequencies causing illness in children. While these stories were fabricated, the theme's genuinely eerie quality made it stand out in a game filled with upbeat melodies. The decision to create such a somber theme for a children's game showed the developer's willingness to embrace darker tones when appropriate. Cynthia's battle theme, from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, is often cited as one of the best champion battle themes in the series, perfectly capturing the intensity and difficulty of the fight. The piano opening builds into a dramatic orchestral piece that conveys Cynthia's strength and grace. Facing Cynthia for the first time remains a rite of passage for Pokémon players, with her Garchomp serving as a final exam that tests everything learned throughout the journey. The Pokémon Red and Blue rival battle theme's intensity contrasted with the game's usually cheerful music, emphasizing the rivalry's importance. Later games softened this edge, with rivals becoming friendlier and less antagonistic. This shift reflected broader changes in the series' tone, prioritizing cooperation and friendship over competition, though some longtime fans missed the harsher rivalry dynamics of early games. Lance's champion battle theme from Gold, Silver, and Crystal elevated the Dragon-type master's status, though his team's over-reliance on Dragonite became a meme among players. The surprise that awaited players who climbed Mount Silver to face Red, the original game's protagonist, created one of gaming's most legendary moments. Red's silent presence and powerful team made this battle feel like facing a legend, cementing his status as the ultimate challenge. The Distortion World theme from Platinum captured the surreal nature of Giratina's realm, with electronic elements creating an otherworldly atmosphere. This area's gravity-defying puzzles and eerie ambiance made it one of the most memorable locations in Pokémon history. The confrontation with Giratina in its origin form elevated it from a simple legendary encounter to a pivotal story moment. Pokémon Black and White's music integrated modern and traditional elements, reflecting Unova's theme of truth and ideals existing in harmony. N's battle theme incorporated his signature Pokémon's cries into the melody, creating a personal connection between trainer and music. This attention to detail elevated N from a standard antagonist to one of the series' most compelling characters. Route 1, themes across generations, serve as each game's introduction to exploration, setting the tone for the adventure ahead. Johto's Route 29 theme conveyed peaceful rural charm, while Galar's Route 1 featured a whistled melody that invited players into the wild area beyond. These early route themes are often the most nostalgic, as they represent players' first steps into new worlds. Legendary encounter themes have evolved from simple battle music to epic orchestral pieces that emphasize these Pokemon's godlike status. Rayquaza's battle theme in Emerald conveyed ancient power, while Necrozma's Ultra Form battle theme in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon felt apocalyptic. These themes elevated legendary encounters beyond routine captures to moments of genuine significance. Totem. Pokemon battle themes in Sun and Moon created tension through tribal rhythms and threatening melodies that emphasized these battles' difficulty. The visual spectacle of totem Pokemon growing to massive size, combined with the music, made these encounters memorable despite being somewhat gimmicky. The decision to replace gyms with trials was controversial, but the totem battles provided the memorable challenges that justified the change. The Eternatus battle theme in Sword and Shield incorporated electronic distortions and cosmic sounds to emphasize its extraterrestrial origin and reality warping power. The two-phase battle structure mirrored the escalating threat, with the second phase introducing Eternamax Eternatus's colossal form. This climactic encounter represented the series' commitment to creating epic moments even after decades of games. As another quiet detail appears when we look closer, we find that voice acting has been largely absent from mainline Pokemon games, despite its prevalence in modern gaming. This decision maintains the tradition of allowing players to imagine characters' voices while reading text boxes. The few instances of voice acting, like Pikachu's cries or the occasional voiced cutscene, stand out precisely because of their rarity. Pokemon Legends, Arceus broke with tradition by including brief voiced grunts and reactions during cutscenes, though full voice acting remained absent. This compromise acknowledged modern expectations while respecting series conventions. The debate over whether future Pokemon games should include full voice acting continues to divide the fanbase between tradition and modernization. Character customization has become an expected feature since its introduction in X and Y, allowing players to express themselves through clothing, hairstyles, and accessories. The ability to create a trainer that looks like yourself enhances immersion and personal connection to the journey. Limited customization options in certain games, particularly gender-locked clothing, have frustrated players seeking more inclusive representation. The player character's age has remained ambiguous across generations, with designs suggesting characters between 10 and 15 years old. This deliberate vagueness allows players of all ages to project themselves onto the protagonist without feeling disconnected. The tradition of beginning each game as a new trainer receiving their first Pokemon maintains this accessible entry point regardless of player demographics. Pokemon storage systems have evolved from Bill's PC in Generation 1 to cloud-based systems like Pokemon Home that allow transfers across games and generations. The transition from physical storage within individual games to centralized online storage reflects broader gaming industry trends. The annual subscription fee for Pokemon Home's premium features sparked debates about monetization and whether storage should be a paid service. Version exclusive Pokemon have encouraged trading since the beginning, with certain Pokemon only available in one version of each game pair. This design decision promoted social interaction and gave each version unique value. The decision to implement version-exclusive legendary Pokemon and gym leaders in Sword and Shield expanded this concept beyond individual Pokemon to entire gameplay experiences. The Battle Frontier in Pokemon Emerald represented the peak of post-game content in mainline games, offering 7 different facilities, each with unique rules and challenges. Players could spend hundreds of hours pursuing gold symbols and building specialized teams for each facility. The Battle Frontier's removal from later games disappointed competitive players seeking challenging in-game content beyond standard battles. The Battle Tower became the standard post-game battle facility in later generations, offering straightforward, consecutive battles with increasing difficulty but lacking the variety of the Battle Frontier. Rental teams allowed players to experience different Pokemon and strategies without building their own teams. The Battle Tower's leaderboards created competitive motivation, though the AI's tendency to use strategies like evasion spam frustrated players. Super training and Pokemon Amy in Generation 6 made EV training and friendship mechanics more accessible through minigames, removing some of the grinding traditionally required. These features acknowledged that players wanted to optimize their Pokemon without endless random encounters. Later generations streamlined these systems further with items that immediately set EVs to specific values. Pokemon Camp in Sword and Shield allowed players to interact with their team through cooking curry and playing with Pokemon in real time. These wholesome moments provided relief from intense battles and reinforced the bonds between trainers and Pokemon. The Curry Pokedex tracking all Curry variations added a completionist challenge separate from the main Pokedex. Picnics in Scarlet and Violet served a similar function to camping while adding egg discovery mechanics, making breeding more convenient. The ability to create custom sandwiches that provided temporary buffs added strategic depth to exploration. Shiny hunting became more efficient through sandwich powers, democratizing access to shiny Pokemon previously requiring extreme dedication. Gym leaders across generations have represented various types, though some types like Flying and Ghost have been underrepresented compared to Water and Normal. The personality and design of gym leaders reflect their type specialties, with Bug-type leaders often depicted as young and energetic, while Dragon-type leaders exude power and intimidation. This characterization reinforces type identities and creates memorable encounters that go beyond simple battles. Brock's rock-hard determination in Generation 1 established the template for gym leaders as obstacles that teach type matchups and strategy. His Onix overwhelmed unprepared players who chose Charmander as their starter, teaching the importance of type coverage early. This brutal introduction created lasting memories for countless players struggling to overcome their first major challenge. Misty's preference for water types and her location in Cerulean City created the series' first gym leader rivalry between her and Brock in the anime. The cascading waterfalls of her gym and the requirement to navigate her trainers before facing her built anticipation. Her signature move, Water Gun, dealt consistent damage that punished players relying on underleveled teams. Lieutenant Surge's military background and his use of electric types created a formidable challenge in a building decorated with electrical hazards. His Raichu evolved from Pikachu using a Thunderstone, directly contrasting Ash's refusal to evolve his Pikachu in the anime. The optional nature of facing Surge before or after other gym leaders gave players freedom to approach Kanto's gyms non-linearly. Erica's peaceful grass-type gym contrasted sharply with Surge's aggressive demeanor, showcasing the diversity of gym leader personalities. Her perfume shop theme and the requirement to help her before challenging her gym added narrative depth to what could have been a simple battle. Her Vileplume's sleep powder frustrated many players, teaching the importance of status condition prevention. Sabrina's psychic-type dominance in Generation 1 made her one of the most difficult gym leaders to defeat without ghost-type coverage. The teleportation puzzles in her gym created disorientation and confusion, mirroring psychic type's mind-bending powers. Her connection to supernatural abilities made her feel genuinely threatening in a way few other gym leaders achieved. Blaine's volcanic gym on Cinnabar Island required answering trivia questions to avoid trainer battles, a unique gimmick that tested players' Pokémon knowledge. His position late in the game allowed him to field powerful fire types like Arcanine that challenged even well-prepared teams. The destruction of his gym in gold and silver added continuity between generations and stakes to the world's progression. Giovanni's final gym in Veritas City, serving as a front for Team Rocket, revealed his dual role as crime boss and gym leader. His ground-type specialty and access to Nidoking and Nidoqueen demonstrated his experience and power. The revelations that he fled after his defeat and disbanded Team Rocket showed that villains could face real consequences in the Pokémon world. Whitney's Miltank in Generation 2 became legendary for its difficulty, using rollout to steamroll unprepared teams. This early game challenge taught players about stat-boosting moves and the importance of defensive Pokémon. The controversy around Whitney crying after losing humanized gym leaders beyond simple obstacles, though her reaction was somewhat controversial. Morty's ghost-type gym in Ecruteak City tied into the lore of the Burn Tower and legendary beasts, making his challenge feel significant to Johto's mythology. His Gengar's Shadow Ball hit hard against unprepared teams, and his spiritual connection to the legendary Pokémon added depth to his character. The decision to place his gym relatively early compared to his team's strength created a difficulty spike. Price's Ice-type gym came surprisingly late in Johto's journey, despite Ice-type's general weakness in competitive play. His advanced age and experience created a mentor figure who had seen generations of trainers pass through his gym. The revelation of his backstory, involving a lost Piloswine, added emotional weight to what could have been a forgettable gym leader. Claire's Dragon-type gym represented the final challenge before facing the Elite Four, with her Kingdra serving as a wake-up call for unprepared teams. Her initial refusal to award the badge after losing created drama and forced players to complete the Dragon's Den challenge. This additional requirement made earning her badge feel more significant than simply winning the battle. Roxanne in Generation 3 introduced rock types as the first gym challenge in Hoenn, continuing the tradition established by Brock. Her Nosepas's high defense frustrated physical attackers, teaching players about special and physical attack differences. Her role as a teacher at the Pokémon Trainers School added professional depth to her character beyond simply being a gym leader. Brawly's fighting-type gym on Dewford Island required Surf to access, gating progress, and teaching players about HM requirements. His focus on training and physical fitness reflected fighting types' association with martial arts and discipline. The remote location of his gym made it feel like a special detour rather than a mandatory stop on the way to the Pokémon League. Watson's electric-type gym featured complex electrical puzzles that many players struggled to solve, creating memorable frustration before even reaching the gym leader. His jovial personality contrasted with the difficulty of his Magneton's powerful attacks. His laughter and enthusiasm made him one of the more personable gym leaders, despite his position as an obstacle. Flannery's Fire-type gym in Laveridge Town introduced her as a new gym leader struggling with her role's responsibility, adding character vulnerability rare among gym leaders. Her Torkoal's Body Slam threatened to paralyze unprepared Pokémon, adding physical coverage to a Fire-type team. The hot spring setting of her gym and town created a relaxing atmosphere, contrasting with the intensity of her battle. Norman's Normal-type gym represented a personal challenge for players, as he was the protagonist's father and a respected trainer. His Slaking's incredible stats, balanced by truant ability, created a puzzle-like battle requiring careful strategy. The emotional weight of defeating your father made this gym challenge more meaningful than a standard-type specialist encounter. Winona's Flying-type gym in Fortree City featured a unique treehouse design accessible only through creative navigation. Her Altaria's Dragon Dance sweeps devastated, unprepared teams, teaching players about setup sweepers. The aerial theme of her gym and the surrounding city created atmospheric consistency that made Fortree feel distinct. Tate and Liza's Double Battle Gym Challenge introduced cooperative battling to the gym leader format, requiring players to think about target selection and spread moves. Their psychic type specialty and coordinated strategies through Solrock and Lunatone demonstrated the potential of teamwork. This unique battle format foreshadowed the importance of doubles in competitive Pokémon. Wallace's water-type gym in Sutopolis City came late in the journey, featuring complex ice-sliding puzzles and a deep pool aesthetic. His Melodic's beauty and power made it a symbol of perfect Pokémon training, though its evolution method through Beauty Stat was frustratingly obscure. His later promotion to champion in Emerald elevated his importance beyond a simple gym leader. Roark's Rock-type gym in Sinnoh continued the tradition of Rock-type first gyms, but added surprise coverage with Granados's powerful headbutt. His position as Byron's son created family dynamics among gym leaders, connecting different cities through personal relationships. The coal mining theme of Orberg City and his role in it grounded his character in the world's economy. Gardenia's grass-type gym featured a room full of trainers hiding among plants, creating hide-and-seek gameplay before the main battle. Her Roserade's poison typing added coverage that made her more dangerous than typical early grass-type specialists. Her enthusiasm for bug-type Pokémon, despite being a grass-type leader, showed personality beyond her official role. Maylene's fighting-type gym and her young age created a coming-of-age narrative where she doubted her qualifications as gym leader. Her Lucario's popularity and powerful moveset made this mid-game battle challenging, forcing players to prepare counter strategies. The emotional arc of her regaining confidence added depth to the Sinnoh gym leader narrative. Crasher Wake's flamboyant personality and water-type specialty made him one of the most memorable gym leaders through sheer charisma. His Floatzel's speed threatened to outpace entire teams, and his masked wrestler aesthetic created a larger-than-life presence. The marsh setting of Pastoria City and the nearby Great Marsh Safari Zone created environmental consistency. Fantina's delayed appearance in the gym challenge due to her contest participation added narrative complexity to Sinnoh's structure. Her ghost-type specialty and French accent gave her a sophisticated air, while her Miss Magius's powerful special attacks devastated unprepared teams. The decision to make her optional until later in the game created non-linear progression. Byron's Steel-type gym deep in Canaleve City featured a puzzle involving platform elevators, creating the three-dimensional navigation challenges. His defensive team and position as Roark's father continued the family theme while demonstrating how type specialties could be passed down through generations. His Bastiodon's incredible defense required patience and powerful special attacks to overcome. Candace's Ice-type gym came surprisingly late, considering Ice types' general weakness, but her strategic use of Frostlass and Abomasnow created genuine threats. The snowy mountain setting of Snowpoint City and her gym's igloo aesthetic created atmospheric immersion. Her friendly demeanor, despite her isolated location, made her approachable despite the harsh environment. Volkner's electric-type gym represented the final challenge before the Pokémon League, with his boredom due to lack of worthy challengers adding character motivation. His varied team, including Raichu, Luxray, Jolteon, and Electivire, demonstrated how type specialists could avoid predictability. The rotating platform puzzle in his gym created spatial challenges, complementing the battle difficulty. As we drift a little deeper into this topic, we find that Elite Four members represent an even greater challenge than gym leaders, with specialized teams and higher levels testing everything players learned throughout their journey. The concept of facing 4 consecutive battles with limited resources between them creates tension and forces careful team management. The inability to leave and heal between battles in early games made Elite Four runs true endurance tests. Lorelei's Ice-type specialty in Generation 1 made her team vulnerable to strong Fire-type and Fighting-type coverage, but her Lapras's bulk and coverage moves created problems for unprepared teams. Her position as the first Elite Four member allowed players to gauge whether their team was ready for the challenge ahead. The decision to include her Slowbro, despite it not being an Ice type, showed that type specialists valued power over purity. Bruno's fighting type specialty included 2 Onyx despite them not being fighting types, a decision that confused players but added rock type coverage to his team. His position as the second Elite Four member and his relatively low difficulty made him feel like a warm-up for later challenges. His characterization as a disciplined martial artist reinforced fighting type associations with physical training. Agatha's Ghost-type team actually consisted primarily of poison types, with only Gengar and Haunter truly being ghost types. This decision reflected Generation 1's limited Ghost-type roster, but created misleading expectations. Her position as an elderly trainer with decades of experience added gravitas to her challenge, though her team's lack of variety disappointed players expecting pure Ghost types. Lance's Dragon-type team dominated Generation 1, despite only having 3 actual Dragon-type Pokémon available at the time. His over-reliance on Dragonite became infamous, with 3 of them using identical movesets, creating repetitive battles. His role as champion in Generation 1, elevated to Elite Four, member in Generation 2, showed career progression and added depth to his character arc. Blue's role as champion in Generation 1 created the series' most personal final battle, as players faced their rival who had stayed one step ahead throughout the entire journey. His varied team adapted to the player's starter choice, ensuring a challenging final battle regardless of team composition. The satisfaction of finally defeating him after multiple losses throughout the game made this victory particularly meaningful. The Indigo Plateau's imposing architecture and isolated mountain location created atmosphere for this ultimate challenge. The decision to place Pokémon League at the edge of Kanto emphasized how far trainers traveled to reach this point. The Victory Road Gauntlet, before even reaching the Elite Four, ensured only well-prepared trainers made it to the final challenge. Will's Psychic-type specialty in Johto's Elite Four featured Xatu and Jinx alongside more expected choices, creating a varied team that required different counter strategies. His position as the first Elite Four member and his magician aesthetic added theatrical flair to the challenge. The decision to include Dark-type coverage moves on some Pokémon showed that Elite Four members adapted to counter their weaknesses. Koga's promotion from Gym Leader to Elite Four member between generations showed career advancement and added continuity to the world. His daughter Janine taking over his gym created generational succession and showed how the Pokémon world evolved during the time skip between games. His poison-type specialty and ninja aesthetic created a threatening presence enhanced by his promotion. Bruno's return in Generation 2 maintained continuity with Generation 1 while allowing his character to show growth through stronger Pokémon and improved strategies. His Hitmontop's addition reflected Generation 2's expanded fighting-type roster. The decision to include him again created familiarity for returning players, while newcomers simply saw another Elite Four member. Karen's Dark-type specialty represented Generation 2's new Dark type, though her team included several Pokémon that weren't actually Dark types. Her Umbreon showcased the new evolution, while her Houndoom demonstrated dark type's offensive potential. Her famous quote about strong Pokémon and weak Pokémon existing only in the minds of trainers became one of the series' most memorable philosophical statements. Lance's promotion to champion between generations reflected his strength and dedication to becoming the best. His expanded Dragon-type team with more actual Dragon types showed how his specialty evolved with the new generation. The rematch with him as champion rather than Elite Four member created a different dynamic, as he was now the ultimate challenge rather than a stepping stone. Red's silent presence atop Mount Silver created the series' most legendary secret boss fight, with his high-level team and iconic status making this battle the true final challenge of Gold and Silver. His Pikachu's level and the surprise of facing the original game's protagonist elevated this encounter beyond a simple super boss fight. The reward of simply having faced him made this battle significant, regardless of the outcome. Sydney's Dark-type specialty in Hoenn introduced new strategies using Generation 3's expanded Dark-type roster, with his Mightyena and Shiftry leading a varied team. His laid-back surfer aesthetic contrasted with the intensity of Elite Four battles, creating personality beyond his team composition. His position as the first Elite Four member set the tone for Hoenn's final challenge. Phoebe's Ghost-type team showcased Generation 3's expanded Ghost-type roster, with Dusclops and Banette creating defensive and offensive threats respectively. Her connection to Montpire and the Ghost-type lore of Hoenn added narrative significance to her role. The tropical island aesthetic of her chamber created atmospheric contrast with Ghost-type's typically spooky presentation. Glaucia's Ice-type specialty featured dual Glally and Walrein, creating redundancy, but also demonstrating how trainers could use multiple Pokémon of the same species with different strategies. Her position as one of only 2 Ice-type specialists in Elite Four history made her significant, despite her team's lack of variety. The frozen tundra aesthetic of her chamber reinforced her type specialty visually. Drake's Dragon-type specialty continued Lance's legacy, but with a more varied team, including Altaria and Flygon, alongside traditional Dragon types. His position as the final Elite Four member and his weathered sailor appearance created the image of an experienced veteran. His team's coverage moves and strategic depth made him genuinely challenging, despite Dragon type's known weaknesses. Steven's Steel-type specialty as champion showcased his hobby of stone collecting and geological interest, with his Metagross serving as his signature Pokémon. His wealthy background and sophisticated demeanor created a champion who felt earned through breeding and training rather than just raw power. The rematch potential in Emerald, with his even stronger team, added replayability. Wallace's promotion to champion in Emerald created a different final challenge focused on elegant water types rather than Steven's metallic strength. His Melodic's popularity and beauty made it symbolic of perfect Pokémon training, though its evolution method remained frustratingly obscure. The aesthetic shift from Steven's geological theme to Wallace's aquatic elegance showed how different champions could be. Aaron's Bug-type specialty in Sinnoh elevated a traditionally weak type to Elite Four status, with his Drapian's bug resistance and powerful move pool creating strategic depth. His enthusiastic personality and afro hairstyle made him visually distinctive and memorable. The decision to include non-bug types like Drapion showed that modern Elite Four members valued strategy over type purity. Bertha's ground-type team featured a massive Hippowdon and powerful Rhyperior that punished special attackers unprepared for physical bulk. Her elderly appearance and relaxed demeanor contrasted with her devastating team, creating underestimation that the battle quickly corrected. The desert aesthetic of her chamber reinforced ground type associations with arid environments. Flint's fire type team ironically included several non fire types in Diamond and Pearl due to Sinnoh's limited fire type roster, though Platinum rectified this with a full fire type team. His friendship with Volkner and his role in motivating the Sunishore gym leader added characterization beyond his Elite Four position. His afro and energetic personality created a memorable presence. Lucian's psychic type specialty showcased Generation 4's strong psychic types, including Galad and Bronzong, creating a versatile team with coverage for typical weaknesses. His intellectual demeanor and book-reading habit reinforced psychic type associations with intelligence and mental power. The library aesthetic of his chamber created atmospheric consistency with his personality. Cynthia's role as champion, with no specific type specialty, created a terrifying versatile threat, with her Garchomp becoming legendary for its speed and power. Her elegant design and piano theme music made her iconic beyond her team composition. The difficulty spike between the Elite Four and her created a true final boss worthy of Sinnoh's darker narrative tone. Chantal's ghost-type specialty in Unova showcased her career as a horror novelist, with her team reflecting dark themes and supernatural elements. Her Chandelure's power and unique typing made it threatening despite Ghost-type's traditional weaknesses. The library setting of her chamber and her connection to storytelling added depth to her character beyond type specialty. Grimsley's dark-type team and gambling aesthetics created a risk-taking personality that matched his type choice, with his Bisharp serving as a powerful physical sweeper. His philosophical musings about luck and fate reinforced themes from his type specialty. The casino-like atmosphere of his chamber reflected his personality and created visual interest. Caitlin's psychic-type specialty and her backstory connecting to previous games through the Battle Castle gave her depth beyond a simple Elite Four member. Her elegant design and powerful team, including Reuniclus, created a threatening presence. Her connection to Cynthia through friendship added to the interpersonal relationships among champions and Elite Four members. Marshall's fighting-type specialty and his meditation aesthetic created a disciplined presence that reinforced fighting-type associations with martial arts. His powerful team, including Conkeldurr, demonstrated physical strength embodied by his type choice. The dojo-like setting of his chamber created atmospheric consistency with his personality and specialty. Iris's promotion from Opelucid Gym Leader to Champion in Black 2 and White 2 showed significant character growth and added continuity between the games. Her Dragon-type specialty and childish enthusiasm contrasted with her team's power and sophistication. Her Haxorus and Hydreigon created a devastating offensive core that punished unprepared teams. Alder's role as champion in Black and White created a mentor figure more interested in understanding Pokémon than simply being the strongest. His varied team without type specialty reflected his philosophy about bonds mattering more than power. His eventual loss of champion status to Iris showed that even champions could be surpassed, adding realism to the competitive world. N's role as temporary champion after defeating Alder created a unique situation where the antagonist held the champion title, forcing players to reclaim it immediately. His legendary dragon Reshiram, or Zekrom depending on version, made this battle truly legendary. The philosophical confrontation between truth and ideals elevated this battle beyond simple champion fights. Malva's fire-type specialty in Kalos and her secret team Flare membership created moral ambiguity among Elite Four members. Her Talonflame's priority moves and coverage created a fast offensive threat. The revelation of her villainous connection added stakes to the Elite Four challenges beyond simply strong trainers. Siebold's water-type specialty and his career as a chef created unique characterization, connecting type specialty to personality. His sophisticated French-inspired design and powerful team, including Clawitzer, demonstrated elegance in battle. The fine dining aesthetic of his chamber reinforced his culinary interests visually. Wickstrom's steel-type specialty and knight aesthetic created a medieval warrior theme perfect for steel-type's defensive associations. His Aegislash's stance change ability and powerful move pool made him genuinely threatening. The castle-like setting of his chamber reinforced the knightly theme and created atmospheric immersion. Drosna's dragon-type specialty continued the tradition of dragon-type specialists in Elite Four ranks, with her grandmother aesthetic creating an experienced veteran character. Her varied dragon-type team, including Dragalge and Noivern, demonstrated Generation 6's expanded dragon roster. Her peaceful demeanor contrasted with Dragon-type's fearsome reputation. Diantha's role as champion balanced her career as a famous actress with her battling prowess, creating the celebrity champion unlike previous holders. Her Mega Gardevoir served as her signature and demonstrated the Mega Evolution mechanic's importance. The elegant theater aesthetic of her battle arena reflected her dual career as actress and champion. The Alola region replaced the Elite Four with Island Kahunas and Grand Trials, fundamentally changing the formula before eventually reintroducing the Elite Four later. This bold decision showed Game Freak's willingness to experiment with established formulas. The cultural significance of kahunas as spiritual and political leaders grounded them in Alolan society beyond simple obstacles. Hala's fighting-type specialty as Melimelei Island's kahuna established him as the player's grandfather figure and mentor throughout the journey. His Hariyama and Crabominable demonstrated physical power, while his leadership showed fighting-type's association with discipline. His role in the coming-of-age story made defeating him emotionally significant. Olivia's rock-type specialty as Akala Island's kahuna showcased her career as a jewelry maker, connecting type specialty to livelihood. Her team's varied strategies, including Midnight Lycanroc's counter, created defensive threats. Her friendly demeanor and attraction to strong trainers added personality beyond her official role. Nanu's dark-type specialty as Ula Ula Island's kahuna contrasted with his cynical personality and lack of enthusiasm for his role. His Persian's technical move pool and his team's strategic depth showed that he took battling seriously despite his apathetic exterior. His backstory as a former international police officer added mystery to his character. Hapu's ground-type specialty as Pony Island's new kahuna showed her growth from a doubting young girl to a confident leader. Her Mudsdale's stamina ability and powerful move pool created a wall that many teams struggled to overcome. The agricultural theme of her character connected ground types to farming and earth. The Elite Four's eventual introduction in Sun and Moon included Kahuna Hala alongside new challengers, creating continuity between the trial system and traditional Elite Four structure. This compromise satisfied traditionalists while maintaining Alola's unique cultural elements. The decision to allow challenging them in any order created nonlinear progression unusual for Elite Four battles. Mullane's steel-type specialty and his friendship with Sophocles added personal connections between characters. His technical move pool and defensive strategies created a thinking player's challenge. His role as a researcher added depth beyond simple battling prowess. Kahili's flying-type specialty as a professional golfer created unique characterization connecting sports to Pokémon training. Her Toucanon's powerful beak blast and her team's varied strategies demonstrated flying type's versatility. The sports theme reinforced that Pokémon training paralleled athletic competition. Professor Kukui's role as final challenge before becoming champion created a unique mentor versus student dynamic, where the player surpassed their teacher. His varied team without type specialty reflected his role as Pokemon professor, studying all types. His masked wrestler alter ego as the masked royal added layers to his character. Leon's role as undefeated champion in Galar created expectations his battle attempted to fulfill, with his Charizard serving as signature despite it being a Kanto Pokemon. His showman personality and endorsement deals created a celebrity champion different from previous iterations. The stadium setting and massive crowds during his battle reinforced Galar's sports-centric culture. The Galar Elite Four's unique structure as tournament challengers rather than guardians changed the traditional format significantly. Facing random opponents before reaching the champion made each playthrough slightly different. The broadcast nature of these battles integrated them into Galar's culture in ways previous regions hadn't explored. Gita's role as champion in Paldea and her position as Academy chairwoman created authority beyond battling prowess. Her Glamora's unique typing and her team's coverage created varied threats. The controversy around her team's optimization and AI behavior created community discussion about intended difficulty versus actual challenge. The Paldea Elite Four's accessibility in any order from the start of the postgame created player freedom unusual for Elite Four challenges. This non-linear approach respected player agency while maintaining difficulty. The diverse type specialties and personalities created varied challenges worth pursuing. Rika's ground type specialty and her tough exterior hiding a caring interior created depth beyond surface characterization. Her Clodsire's bulk and Whiscash's coverage demonstrated ground type's versatility. Her role as team coordinator added professional duties beyond simply battling. Poppy's steel-type specialty, despite her young age, created surprising juxtaposition between childish appearance and powerful team. Her Tinkaton's massive hammer and strong move pool created offensive threats. The decision to make a child an Elite Four member raised questions about age requirements that the games never addressed. Larry's normal type and flying type specialties across both Elite Four and gym leader roles created the series' first dual-duty character. His mundane office worker aesthetic and tired demeanor contrasted sharply with typical Elite Four presentation. His Star Aptor's devastating close combat and his team's strategic depth showed that even ordinary-seeming trainers could be elite. Hassel's Dragon-type specialty and his career as a former musician created artistic characterization for Dragon specialists unusual in the series. His Baxcalibur's power and his team's coverage demonstrated Dragon types maintaining offensive relevance. His emotional sensitivity contrasted with Dragon type's fierce reputation. The champion rematches and Battle Tower equivalents across generations provided post-game challenges for players seeking higher difficulty. These optional battles allowed developers to field champion teams without level restrictions, creating truly challenging encounters. The inclusion of previous champions as challengers celebrated series history while providing content. Red's continuing appearances across generations as Superboss maintained his legendary status, with each appearance featuring updated teams and higher levels. His silent presence and incredible strength made him the series' ultimate challenge. The pilgrimage to battle him wherever he appeared became tradition for dedicated players. Blue's various roles across games as champion, gym leader, and rival created a complete character arc showing his growth from arrogant rival to respected leader. His continued relevance across generations demonstrated how important early characters remained to fans. His mellowing personality, while maintaining competitive edge showed realistic character development. Steven's guest appearances in later regions and his role in Delta episode showed champions maintaining importance beyond their original games. His geological hobby and Mega Metagross created consistent characterization. The continued friendship between regions' champions suggested a community of elite trainers. Cynthia's appearances in Unova and other regions established her as the series' most popular champion, with her difficulty and design creating lasting impact. Her continued strength across appearances maintained her reputation. The respect other champions showed her reinforced her status as perhaps the strongest champion in series history. The Battle Tree and Sun and Moon brought together champions and elite trainers from across all regions for the ultimate post-game challenge. Facing Red and Blue as a double battle team created a dream matchup decades in the making. The rotating opponents ensured variety while celebrating series history through familiar faces. Another quick detail appears when we look closer at how weather and terrain effects have evolved from simple battle mechanics to fundamental strategic elements. Sunny Day. Boosting fire-type moves while enabling Solar Beam's instant use created offensive opportunities for Sun teams. The weakening of water-type moves under Sun balanced this advantage and created counterplay. Rain Dance's boost to water-type moves and Thunder's perfect accuracy created different advantages for Rain teams, with Swift Swim ability users doubling speed under Rain. The weakening of Fire-type moves under Rain created defensive benefits, complementing offensive boosts. The strategic depth of Weather Wars dominated several competitive generations. Sandstorm's residual damage and Rock-type special defense boost created advantages for defensive teams while punishing opponents without immunities. Sand Rush and Sand Force abilities gave offensive options to Sand teams traditionally focused on stall. The chip damage from Sandstorm made matches between defensive teams less stalemate-prone. Hail's residual damage and Ice-type synergies with abilities like Snowcloak created evasion-based strategies, controversial in competitive play. The Blizzard accuracy boost under Hail mirrored Thunder's rain accuracy. The transformation to Snow in Generation 9 removed residual damage while maintaining Ice-type buffs, making the weather less punishing. Grassy Terrain's healing and Grass-type move boost created defensive advantages while weakening Earthquake's power, fundamentally changing ground-type offensive presence. The terrain's residual healing allowed certain Pokémon to stall opponents effectively. The synergy with grass-type abilities and moves created cohesive team strategies. Electric Terrain's boost to electric-type moves and sleep prevention created both offensive and defensive advantages, with rising voltage doubling power on grounded targets. The sleep immunity disrupted Dark Void and Spore strategies that dominated before terrain introduction. The offensive boost made electric-type attacks threatening even from weaker Pokémon. Psychic Terrain's boost to Psychic-type moves and priority move prevention created defensive walls impossible to break with priority attacks. Expanding Force, doubling power on Psychic Terrain, made Psychic types threatening offensive presences. The priority blocking disrupted Fake Out and other strategies relying on move priority. Misty Terrain's protection against status conditions and halving of Dragon-type move power created defensive team options while weakening Dragon-type dominance. The status immunity rendered Toxic and Will-O-Wisp useless, fundamentally changing defensive strategies. The Dragon-type nerf, combined with Fairy-type introduction, thoroughly dethroned dragons from their former dominance. Trick Room's speed reversal created alternative strategies for slow, powerful Pokémon otherwise outpaced by faster threats, making Pokémon like Rhyperior and Conkeldurr viable offensive options. The 5-turn duration required careful planning to maximize its effectiveness. The mental calculation of speed orders under Trick Room added complexity to doubles battles. Tailwind's speed doubling created different solutions to the speed problem without reversing turn order, allowing naturally fast Pokémon to outspeed even choice Scarf users. The 4-turn duration and its compatibility with Trick Room on different turns created layered speed control. The ability to use both strategies in a single match added depth to team building. As we've journeyed through these facts, from the earliest legends to the strangest modern discoveries, one truth becomes clear. The Pokémon world is far more complex, mysterious, and alive than it may first appear. Behind every sprite, every cry, and every battle mechanic lies a story, sometimes wondrous, sometimes tragic, sometimes strange enough to blur the line between game and myth. So, as you drift off tonight, imagine yourself wandering those tall grasses, not knowing exactly which Pokémon you'll encounter next, but knowing that each one has its own tale to tell, a tale waiting to be discovered. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed drifting through these quiet moments, there's another video waiting on the left of your screen. Let it play while you rest. You might discover something gentle before sleep takes you again.